Record.
Welcome to the Fantasy Forecast Start and Sit Show. This one, read this, correct show sheet. Producer. Previously on the Fantasy Forecast with Grindberg and Biggs. It was all preseason. And guess what? We made it, baby! It's week one! Let's go! Welcome to the Fantasy Forecast with Grindberg and Biggs on the Fantasy Football Advice Network on YouTube and Fantasy Sports Advice Network and Twitter and all of the places. I'm Biggs. He's Grindberg. We got Schulte. He's milling around somewhere.
Hey!
We're bringing you starts and sits for week one NFL season. It gets started Thursday with TNF. We'll also be on the PAT show after the game. And we got all the intel for you guys. How you doing, Grindberg?
I am doing awesome. It is right.
How are you doing?
Yeah, let's ask Schulte first before we bump him.
Well, we're so close, guys. That's all there is, man. I'm just so happy.
It's a good haircut too, Schulte. All right, bye.
Yeah, looking fresh. Yeah, man. Things are looking up.
Grindberg introduces the start segment and start us off. Segment number one starts.
Yeah, let's go. So welcome everybody to the first start and sit show for the Fantasy Forecast. So we're doing week one. We're going to start it off. We're each going to give two starts and we're each going to give two sits every week. And then our next show will be an injury show with none other than injury specialist Marcus Gailey. He is a sports physical therapist who works with sports injuries all day long. So he's going to be our insider on our injury show, which you'll see dropping most likely on Saturdays. And then we're going to do a waiver wire show on Monday evenings. That's going to probably run on Tuesday mornings for everybody to get there, guys, for when the waiver wire shows hit and the waiver wire hits. So I'm going to start us off with my first start of the week, and it is going to be Jerome Ford versus the Cowboys. And he is going to be playing against a Cowboys team that, has some limitations. They've had some issues in the past in the forefront. So with Nick Chubb's absence, that means Ford will take over the Browns starting running back. Last season, he showed promise, averaging 14 touches and 70 yards per game when he was the starter. His ability to handle the workload in Chubb's absence make him a strong candidate for your fantasy lineup, especially given the Cowboys' defensive struggles against the run. With Chubb out, Ford will be the focal point of the Browns' ground game, giving him ample opportunity to produce valuable points. Ford's role will also enhance by the current running back depth in Cleveland, where they just recently cut, Devonta Foreman and the other backs competing for touches. We're not so, brand name guys. So we're looking at Jerome Ford as an excellent start week one. His role with the Browns in the absence of Chubb, combined with his favorable matchup against the Cowboys, make him a valuable asset for your team. You could start him in an RB2 or flex position with confidence this week. Now, Biggs, who do you got as your first start of the week for the 2024 season?
Well, let me just start off by saying that my starts and sits are essentially we're talking big name flag plants. Okay, so when I say a guy as a start, it means it's somebody who is not necessarily in your realm of thought at the moment. When I say sit, it's going to be a surprise because it's somebody that you probably drafted and are banking on being a starter. Now, there's some people who are matchup proof. CeeDee Lamb is a good example of that. CeeDee Lamb has a pretty terrible matchup against the Cleveland Browns defense this week. If we look deep into the numbers, we will find that I can't find them. There it is. We will find that the Cleveland defense allows 53 less yards per game on average than 53 yards per game less than the average defense. So you would think that CeeDee Lamb would be a sit, but he's not. He's an automatic start every week. My first sit is going to be kind of a surprise. It's Gardner Minshew, and I hate saying that. Even as a Raiders fan, I have zero comfortability starting Gardner Minshew. However, this is a rivalry game. It's week 1. Antonio Pierce needs to basically set the stage for the season. They're playing the Chargers, who, the Patrick Graham defense shut them down last year, and the Raiders put up like 64 points against them. So this offense is going to be able to go out and absolutely beat the brakes off the Chargers. It's an indoor game. It's on turf. So there's going to be, we're in week 1. There's no weather to worry about or anything like that. And Gardner Minshew has a ton of weapons at his fingertips. He's got Devontae Adams, who is just a separation god. He's got Jacoby Myers, who's a great slot receiver. Brock Bowers is practicing again. He's going to be healthy. Michael Mayer is definitely a good weapon in the offense. And Trey Tucker can take the lid off. Los Angeles allows 40 yards per game over the average defense. And the Raiders are a smash this week. So you're probably not looking for somebody to fill in at quarterback. But if you are, hey, give Gardner Minshew a shot.
Cool. All right. Well, I'm going to add to that because, that's coming from somebody that didn't really like Gardner Minshew headed into this. And that's a good take. And I think they're going to have a lot of success this year. The Las Vegas Raiders. I like the makeup of their team, especially their defense. So bright things are ahead for them, I think. What do you got them pegged this year as they finish off the top of your head? Biggs, how many wins do you think the Raiders get?
Well, we went through this last night on my show. When I looked over the schedule the first time, I came up with 13-4. Then looking at it a little bit deeper, I came up with 8-9. And Raider Damas had them at 11 wins. I think 8 is a good floor. 13 is a good ceiling. I think they're going to finish with 11 wins and make the playoffs.
Sweet. That's awesome. Yeah, that division is definitely some winnable games in there. All right, so I'm going to talk about my second start this week, and that's Tampa Bay wide receiver Chris Godwin, and he's a top pick for me to be in your fantasy lineup, especially in PPR leagues. Even though Baker Mayfield might not be your first choice, he's a great chance to perform against the Washington Commanders, who had a dreadful pass defense last year. The Commanders gave up the most passing yards and touchdowns in the league, setting the stage for Chris Godwin to have a big game. One of the key reasons to start Godwin is his return to the slot position. This is significant because Godwin's fantasy season came when he was primarily used in the slot. That was his best season back in 2022, where he caught 104 passes for 1,000 yards, demonstrated his huge potential when lined up in that role. Godwin has been reliable fantasy performer, averaging about 6 catches per game over the last 5 seasons. There are some potential obstacles to Godwin's target share, such as running back Rachaad White and maybe Bucky Irving coming in. And also you can't forget about Jalen McMillan, who's coming on strong. But, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they play a lot of 3 wide receiver sets, so there's going to be a lot of opportunity for all of these guys. And Chris Godwin in the slot in the 6th round seemed like a really smart move for me in the draft, so I got a lot of him. And his ceiling might not be as high as some of the other big-name wide receivers, but his consistent performance and return to the best position makes him a strong candidate for your lineup. So I'm going to be primed to take advantage of his matchup this week. Schultze, bringing you in today. What do you got to say about that Chris Godwin matchup? Are you with me on that one?
Oh, big time. I think it's just Big said he liked all the Raiders, and I'm just in on all the Bucs this week. I think this Washington defense is one you're going to be able to pick on all year, especially the secondary. It's pretty bad. They took Emmanuel Forbes in the first round a couple of years ago, and he was being atrocious. He's not even starting this year for them. And they just drafted Mike, was it Sanders still? I don't know how to say it.
Mike Sanders still from Michigan.
From Michigan, the corner or slot corner. So I think he's going to develop into a good player, but it's still week 1 against Godwin. So Godwin's going to get his. I'm not concerned about that. But yeah, Godwin and Evans both to the moon this week for me.
Mm-hmm.
The secondary is just a mess. I think, yeah, like I said, it's going to be one to target all year. So yeah, give me some Godwin.
Yeah, the Commanders were the worst pass defense last year. They gave up 52 yards per game more than average. And little spoiler alert. I have Kate Otten and Jalen McMillan as waiver wire ads this week, just because I love the matchup, and start all Tampa Bay products. And Washington isn't terrible against the run either. While they give up 52 yards more per game in the passing attack, they only give up 4 yards a game more against the rush than the average. So they're still bad, but they're not quite as bad against the pass. So or against the run. So smash all Tampa Bay receiver hands this week.
Thanks, Schultz. So, Biggs, what do you got as your next start?
I don't know. Let me check my notes. Brandon Aiyuk, go ahead and sit him down. The reason is because they're playing the New York Jets. The New York Jets were the best defense against the pass last year. And there's a guy by the name of Sauce Gardner who's going to be out there in coverage on Aiyuk. The Jets gave up 58 less yards per game than the average. And they shut it down. So the 49ers to win this game, yes, it's going to be at home. And if I was, betting spreads and everything, I would definitely be betting for the 49ers in this game, just because they're the 49ers. But it looks to be a pace game that is going to favor the running attacks and not the passing attacks. And so your Christian McCaffreys, your Jordan Masons, maybe even a little bit of Deebo Samuel, possibly some George Kittle. But as the wide receiver one in that air attack, I think Brandon Aiyuk is going to be he's a sit this week.
Yeah, I mean, I got to sit there too. That kind of correlates with that as well, and that's Brock Purdy.
I didn't do my start.
I know.
I totally screwed that up.
So what we're gonna do is I'll just do my Brock Purdy spiel here, and then you can get into your next start because and then we'll finish off the sits.
So dumb.
It's okay, man. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay, man. It's okay.
I know.
We still love you, even though you guys buried me in the way depths of Nunavut somewhere. I still love you guys. All right. Well, I'm going to just talk about, Brock Purdy because I don't like that matchup either for him. And it kind of correlates with what the Biggs is saying. Brock Purdy, he's had a great year last year. He was a candidate for the MVP and he led the 49ers to the Super Bowl. But the conditions for week one make him a risky start. The 49ers face that tough New York Jets defense and they pose several challenges for Purdy and makes him a sit for the upcoming match. The offense has been in flux leading up to the season opener. Both offensive players like Brandon Aiyuk, Trent Williams were holding out, casting doubts on their availability for week one. Fortunately, they both signed recently and finalized their contract and will be on the field, but their holdouts might have left them a little rusty. Williams' protection of Purdy's blind side is crucial, and any lingering issues could impact Purdy's performance. Compounding this issue, the Jets secondary is one of the most formidable in the league, and like you mentioned, Aiyuk sit him as well. So this whole situation for the 49ers brings I still think they have a really good shot at winning that game, but I'm just sitting a lot of their players that are in their offensive scheme other than Christian McCaffrey and maybe Deebo Samuel in certain matchups there. So Biggs, what do you got as your start there? Who do you have as your last start before we talk about our platform a bit?
My second start is going to be Pop Douglas. Jacoby Brissett is going to need somebody to rely on. I do love the upside of Javon Baker and Jalen Polk, but I don't think that they are there yet. Cincinnati's defense is suspect. They allow 35 yards per game more than average, and I think that Jacoby Brissett and Pop Douglas is going to be a nice little relationship entering this week one contest. And Demario Douglas out of the slot getting 8 to 12 targets is gonna really do some damage to Cincinnati. So I like that matchup a lot.
I do too, and I like that. I like your call on Pop Douglas, and I think at the end of the day, he's probably going to be the receiver that's going to lead that team in targets. Maybe not full-on fantasy points. Maybe Polk has got a little bit more upside as far as touchdown upside goes, and you never know if Javon Baker can, make that lineup and play a majority of the snaps. His talent's there, so I like your early call on Pop Douglas, and he's going to need somebody to rely on, Jacoby Brissett, when he's under pressure with that weak offensive line. So I really like that call, Biggs. And Chelsea, what do you
keep in mind that the pace of this game is going to be pretty low. Cincinnati is going to have a pretty big lead, so the Patriots are going to the Patriots are implied to score only 15.5 points this week. So maybe Pop gets a touchdown or two, but basically he's going to be living off the targets, and the game script is going to favor Jacoby Brissett slinging the ball.
Love it. Chelsea, why don't you tell us about our platform?
We are here. FantasySportsAdvice.com, offering the best fantasy sports social media platform. Why join endless Discord communities or the trolls of Reddit? Fantasy Sports Advice is a community designed to help you win with 24/7 support. Go to FantasySportsAdvice.com and become a pro member for unlimited access. Again, go to FantasySportsAdvice.com today.
That's not Schultz's voice, by the way.
I could have sworn it was.
Try my best.
All right, Biggs, why don't you round us off with your last sit before I finish the show off?
This show is just chaos. It's great to be back, you guys.
Love it.
All right. My next sit is going to be Tony Pollard of the Tennessee Titans. There's a 36% running funnel against Chicago. They're very, very good against the rush. It's going to be a terrible game script for Will Levis. Chicago gives up 27 fewer yards than average on the ground, and Tony Pollard's not going to have a whole lot of space to run. The linebacker core in Chicago is pretty good, and I don't see a way forward for Tony Pollard to have a big week. Sorry to everybody that drafted him, thinking he is going to be the RB1, but he's going to have a bad week.
You heard it there first, folks. And then my last sit is another running back, and I think he's going to have a tough sled, and I think he should be left on your bench, and that's Devin Singletary. He had a solid year last year with the Houston Texans, but with the new contract with the Giants, there are few reasons to be cautious about starting him right now. A tough matchup versus the Vikings and some issues with the Giants' offensive line makes him a risky choice for me starting this week. Singletary's role in the Giants' offense is a bit uncertain. With a banged up offensive line and a few standout pass catchers, New York's offense could struggle to move the ball. This could lead the defenses focusing heavily on stopping Singletary and Daniel Jones, plus rookie Tyrone Tracy might take away some of the passing targets if he's able to play enough in the game. Singletary could have, a fewer lower targets than expected. I don't like the matchup, and therefore I just think that the Giants are going to have a hard time scoring points this year, and that's not going well for their running back situation unless you're catching a lot of passes. So I think it's a good idea to keep them on your bench.
Yeah, I do too. If we're talking about the fishbowl, I might go with Tyrone Tracy, but I doubt it. But yeah, I don't like Singletary at all, and I don't like the New York Giants offense at all either. Yeah.
I don't like it either. So other than Malik Neighbors, and we know how I feel about him. So guys, that's our first start and sit show of the 2024 NFL season. Hopefully we've made some decisions a little bit easier for you all. Have a couple people on your bench that you might have started, and let's hope you get some wins out there, Biggs. Let's take us home, bud.
Probably our worst show ever. You're welcome. But yeah, follow us on Twitter. I'm at BigBonedFFB. He's at FFCanuck99. Schultze's at SCHU1. TZY. Go download the FSAN app. Get on that and come interact with us and stuff. Follow us on all the places. Like, subscribe, hit the bell, all that stuff. And We hope you win.
We hope you win.